Anna, do you want to do the recording? So right now I'm spotlighted, so there won't be any kids' pictures that will be on the video, but I did want to mention that we are going to turn it off at the end, and then we can have a discussion after the recording is done. So, everybody ready? Okay. So today's kind of a different astronomy at home. We have this every month, usually the third Tuesday of the month, and we read a storybook. We do an activity, and then we have questions and sharing. We're going to be recording, and as I already mentioned, and this is the address and website you can find us at. We're the Astronomical Society of the Pacific, and we do astronomy programming, and we love working with young children as well as very old adults and everyone in between. The story today is called Ron's Big Adventure. Ron's Big Mission. And it is about the astronaut Ron McNair when he was a little boy. His first big mission didn't involve going to space, but it involved going to his local library. And he loved learning about planes and spaceships and all kinds of things. So we are going to get started with our book called Ron's Big Mission. This storybook was made by Rose Bloom and Corinne Naden, and the pictures were made by Don Tate. This is just the credit pages, but I really like this picture of inside his room when he's looking up at the moon. And he has rocket ships, and he has a solar system mobile. And so it's really, he liked space a lot. You're up early this morning, Ron. What's your rush? Asked Mrs. McNair. Come and have your breakfast. I made some oatmeal. I have to go, Mama, said Ron, tying his sneakers. I have something to do this morning. You always have something to do, said his mother with a smile. Just be home by lunchtime, okay? Ron was 9 years old. That morning, he left his house with a plan. He'd been thinking about it for a long time. It was a beautiful South Carolina summer day, and Ron looked up at the blue, blue sky. Someday, he thought, he would be up there, flying a plane. He wanted to be a pilot when he grew up. But today, Ron had something else on his mind, something very important. Ron walked down the street as fast as he could. He didn't want to be late. Hi, Ron, the grocer called from in front of his store. There you are, just in time for a donut. Wow. Morning, Mr. Douglas, said Ron. Thank you, but there's someplace I've got to be. And Ron kept walking. I would have a hard time turning down a donut. I don't know about you. He must have something very important that he's doing. Down the schoolyard, Ron saw his friend Carl shooting baskets. All right, you made it, called Carl. Hi, Carl, said Ron. I wish I could stay, but I've got something important to do. More important than basketball on summer vacation, said Carl. Are you kidding? Ron laughed. He'd love to play basketball, but not today. Today was too important. Ron kept on walking. And he headed into the library. It took a while for Ron to find some books. He always looked for books that showed children who looked like him. But that was hard. There was not many books about Black kids on the shelves. At last, Ron found some books on airplanes. He took the books and started to walk to the front desk. Ron felt nervous and his hands felt a little sweaty, but he knew what he wanted to do. Mrs. Fielding, a white lady who was often at the library, stopped him. You can give me the books and I'll check them out for you, Ron, she said gently. No thanks, Mrs. Fielding, Ron said. I'm going to do it all by myself. But Ron, she started to say. Ron was already on his way to the front desk. He put his books on the counter. I'd like to check these out, please, said Ron. The desk clerk didn't look at him. Didn't she hear me? Ron wondered. Ron knew what he had to do. He jumped up onto the counter. He wanted to know the desk clerk to know that he was serious. I'd like to check out these books, he said quietly. At first, the desk clerk and Mrs. Scott just looked at each other. You know you can't check out these books, Ron, said Mrs. Scott. You can read them here. That's the rule. Only white people can check out books from the library. Ron looked at Mr. Scott and the desk clerk politely, but he would not budge. I always read them here. Today, I want to check them out. Mrs. Scott and the desk clerk did not know what to do. Ron wouldn't get off the counter. People were staring. Finally, the desk clerk called the Lake County Police. Now, Mrs. Scott called Ron mother. Mrs. McNair came to the library very quickly. I know how you feel, baby, she said, but you have to follow the rules. I can't, Mama, Ron told her. It's wrong. The rules are not fair. Why can't I check out books like everyone else? No one said anything, not the desk clerk, not Mrs. Scott, not the policeman, not even Ron's mother. Mrs. Scott looked at Ron. She thought about all the times that Ron came into the library and all the time he sat at the table for hours looking over so many books. He was her best customer, and she knew what she had to do. Mrs. Scott walked back into her office and started writing. Ron wondered what she was doing. Mrs. Scott returned and handed Ron a library card, his library card. Ron looked at Mrs. Scott and smiled. As he jumped to the floor, he thought he saw her smile too. I'd like to check out these books, please, he said, handing the card to the desk clerk. The desk clerk took his library card and stamped the cards in the back of the books. These books are due back in 2 weeks, she said. Ron smiled. Thank you, he said. He tucked his books under his arm and took his mother's hand. Together, they walked home. Ron couldn't wait to get to his room and open the books to page 1. That's the end of our story today, but we also had a special idea. Since Ron checking out those books were so important to him, we thought it would be a nice time for us to share our favorite books. So one book that I really enjoyed reading that I shared with you already was called There Once Was a Sky Full of Stars. I really like this book because it talks about the beautiful night sky and how we can help make everybody have access to it. I wanted to also share a favorite book of someone you've seen here often. Her name is Joycelyn. Joycelyn, would you like to share about your book?
Absolutely. I'm assuming you're showing it to everyone. Hi, it's nice to see a lot of new faces too. I have a 23-year-old son, but one of my favorite books we used to read when he was very young was a book that we read here at Live Storytime called Papa, Please Get the Moon for Me by Eric Carle, who has many, many great children books spanning, I had to look it up, but since like the early 80s. So this is a long time ago for most of you. I think your parents may have been part of the reading of these books. It was really a favorite pastime of mine to read to my son. And when we read this book, as you can see from the illustration, our favorite part was the ladder going up to the moon. And we would always reach out to the moon and try to grab it. So I hope that if you like this book or if you've never read it before, take a look in our Storytime archives and you can sit through the reading of Papa, Please Get the Moon for Me.
Thanks, Joycelyn. And I'm going to stop sharing the slides in just 1 minute. I wanted to have Anna share her favorite book, but I also want to tell you about next month's story. And so we're going to read What Miss Mitchell Saw. It's written by Haley Barrett and illustrated by Diana Sudica. And it's going to be on Tuesday on this date up here.
Looking forward to that one.
Anna, do you want to share your favorite book?
Sure. So I brought along Breakfast Moon, which is one of my favorites because I got to help to make this book, which was so much fun, really fun project. And it's a story about a couple of kids who look at the moon in the sky every day and notice how it changes. And I love to watch the moon from day to day myself.
Thanks so much, Anna. So we're going to turn off the camera so we can share here at ASP, but I hope if you're watching this video, you can also share maybe with your parents or somebody who is in your house about your favorite book.